Hi, I'm Rebecca Amber Clark. Welcome to part 4 of my tutorial, Directing Your First Voiceover Project. So far, we've gone over the casting process from start to finish. In this video, I'll move on to the directing process itself. Now, it's time to send out scripts to your cast. To begin with, you need to lay some ground rules, such as setting deadlines for when you expect your cast to turn in their recordings to you. The first thing you'll need to do, if you haven't done this already when offering roles, is to send everyone their scripts. You should do this even if you will be recording live over a program like Discord or Skype, so voice actors can have a chance to look over the material and become familiar with their lines before the recording session. In most cases, however, I find it can be a lot easier and more efficient to stick to email messages for the entire process, asking voice actors to record on their own, and then submit their recorded lines through email as well. So for this tutorial, I'll leave live direction completely aside, and just talk about directing via email. To start with, here's a list of some things to include in your email when you send your cast their scripts. 1. Deadlines for submitting recorded lines. For this way of doing things, again, deadlines are incredibly important. It's tempting to not want to put pressure on the voice actors to get their recordings done by a certain time, especially for a hobby project where you aren't paying the voice actors. But you have to remember that it's not just you who's waiting. It's the entire rest of the cast as well. Only when the project is completed and published can any of the voice actors point back to it as an example of their work when auditioning for other projects. So, how long should the deadline be? That depends on a lot of different things. A line or two will obviously take much less time to record than the narration for a long book, or all the lines for the lead character in a fully voiced video game. If you are paying your voice cast, especially if you are paying a competitive amount, you can expect your cast to prioritize your project over the ones they do during their free time. So for a paid project, you can expect a much faster turnaround for a given amount of voice acting. A day instead of a week for several lines of character dialogue, for example, or 2 weeks instead of 2 months for a novel-length narration project. The more you can streamline the voice actors' jobs, the quicker you can expect to get your recorded files from them. If you want each line separated into a different file, the audio mastered a certain way, or you want voice actors to do editing such as applying filters to make their voice sound like a robot or an alien or something like that, then all of those things take more time and energy on the voice actor's part. What this means is that you'll need to allow more time for voice actors to turn in those files to you. If you have an exact date you want to publish your project, for example on a holiday, then it's always a good idea to make your deadlines extra early, leaving you plenty of time in case a voice actor gets sick and has to delay recording for a little, or in the worst case, if you have to recast one or more roles. Even in the best-case scenario where your entire voice cast does their part in time, you will still be under much less pressure to put the project as a whole together by your planned release date. 2. What file type you need. Your cast needs to know what file type to use when they save their voice recordings to send to you. There are several types, but 2 very popular formats are WAV and MP3. Keep in mind that MP3 will save as a smaller file size, but it also compresses the audio, so you might lose a bit of quality. It's sort of like choosing whether to save a picture as a bitmap or a JPEG file. The smaller file will have to sacrifice quality somewhere, but depending on the situation, it might or might not matter to you or your audience. WAV will take up more hard disk space, but it preserves the original quality of the audio. If you're not already familiar with all this audio stuff, stereo and mono audio just refers to whether there are 2 audio channels, meaning one set of sounds for your left speakers and one for your right, or each side of your earphones, or only one audio channel, which plays exactly the same for both sides. In many cases, this really doesn't make any difference, at least not a noticeable one. Stereo audio is useful for things like a movie, where a car or a train moves from one side of the screen to the other, and the sound effect can travel with it by starting louder on one side and then moving to the other along with the visuals. You might even do the same thing if two characters are on screen having a conversation, by having their voices seem to come from the side that each one is standing on. This kind of subtle use for stereo audio can enhance a project, but I can't say that I've ever seen a project actually suffer for the lack of it. So my advice is that if you don't already know at least as much as I do about stereo and mono audio, stick to mono audio, most especially for receiving files from your voice actors, even if you convert it to stereo yourself later. In fact, when recording voice lines for your project, the only way that it would even make a difference for the voice actors to record in stereo rather than mono audio would be for them to use two microphones. Otherwise, it's just two copies of a mono audio channel, with no added benefit and twice the file size. So, like I said, if you don't already know a lot about audio mixing, or have an audio engineer for your project who does know, I suggest you ask for mono audio files from your cast. 3. The script itself. Obviously, your cast members need a script to be able to record their lines. Depending on the length of the script, though, there are a few different ways you might want to go about sending it to them. For a very short script, where the whole thing is less than about 1,000 or 2,000 words long, you can usually just send the entire thing to each cast member and ask them to find their roles and record their lines. While you technically could do this for any length script, the longer it is and the more lines there are, the more likely a voice actor will accidentally miss something they were meant to record. Having to ask someone to go back and record something they missed isn't much fun for either the director or the voice actor. So for a longer script, it can be a great idea to send out individually marked copies of the entire script, so that each voice actor receives a file where you've marked their lines in some obvious, eye-catching way. Personally, what I do is use a combination of bold and red-colored font. The red color is very hard to miss in most cases. The bold ensures voice actors can still easily find their lines, even on a black and white monitor that does not display the different font colors. Actually, I like to do this on scripts of any length, even super short ones, just because I like to show appreciation for the voice actors by making their job as easy as possible. Even on a very short script, a line here or there can be missed. Now let's say you've got a really long script, and several of the roles only appear in a scene or two. It's really not helpful to anyone to send out a 50,000-word script with 2 lines highlighted for someone to read in the middle of Chapter 17. So in this case, I find it's best to send the voice actors only the scene, or part of the scene, where their role actually shows up and speaks. If you're sending more than a page or two of script for a 1 or 2 line role, that's most likely more than you need. There's one more way I see scripts, if you can even call them scripts, commonly sent to voice actors, and I really don't recommend this one at all. Often, especially with shorter projects, I see directors send out emails to each voice actor with just the lines for that person to record. The replies by other voice actors, or what the voice actor is supposed to be replying to, is not included, let alone the whole scene to give the voice actor any idea what the meaning is behind the lines they're expected to perform. I can think of 2 reasons why directors might do this. 1, because they're being considerate of the voice actor's time, so they take the time out of their own day as a director to separate out only what they believe the voice actor will need. While this is really thoughtful, and it's always great to feel appreciated by a director, unfortunately, it doesn't always work out as intended. The other reason is that perhaps the director doesn't want to give away spoilers for the entire project before it's released. This could be anything from wanting to let the cast enjoy the story in full along with the rest of the audience, to situations like with professional studios, where there's a concern that someone will either leak spoilers ahead of time to the public, or even steal someone's ideas to use first. Again, while I can see that side of the argument, in my own opinion, it's usually misguided. At some point, you just have to trust, at least a little bit, the people who are helping you bring your project to life. Otherwise, all creativity gets strangled. Or worse, without context, the voice acting could be a total disaster. Here's an example. Let's say a director sends these lines to a voice actor with the following instructions. You're the parent of a college student who has unexpectedly come home a month early with some big news.
Alex, what are you doing home already? Your mother and I didn't expect you back from college until next month. Really? Well, that's just fantastic! Congratulations! You're really the pride and joy of this family, you know that?
Sounds really good, right? These lines were acted really well and sound very believable. But what happens when we put it into the context of the full scene?
Alex, what are you doing home already? Your mother and I didn't expect you back from college until next month. Dad, I have something to tell you. Me and some friends got caught with weed in the dorm and, well, I was expelled. I'm really sorry. Really? Well, that's just fantastic! Congratulations! Look, I said I was sorry. It's not like I asked for this. I'm only human. What do you want from me? You're really the pride and joy of this family, you know that?
Obviously, now those lines, which sounded good before, now sound really awkward and out of place. It's not even the voice actor's fault, but I bet you can guess who will get blamed by most people in the audience. Still skeptical? Here's the scene again, after the actor was given the right context and direction for the scene.
Alex, what are you doing home already? Your mother and I didn't expect you back from college until next month. Dad, I have something to tell you. Me and some friends got caught with weed in the dorm and, well, I was expelled. I'm really sorry. Really? Well, that's just fantastic. Congratulations! Look, I said I was sorry. It's not like I asked for this. I'm only human. What do you want from me? You're really the pride and joy of this family. You know that?
Of course, it is entirely possible to direct your cast without giving them context in their scripts, but it just makes your job and theirs that much harder, and in my opinion, it limits the potential you and your cast can reach in the final performance. 4. Voice direction. Don't send those emails out just yet, though. There's still one more thing you need to give your cast along with their scripts, and that's some voice direction from you, so they know just how you want them to read their lines. In the next video, I'll go over how to give voice direction to your cast. Thanks to the voice talent of Jesse as both the college student and his father. Next time, we'll talk about giving direction, how to describe what you want, giving feedback, and asking for retakes. If you have any questions about sending scripts to your cast that I didn't cover, please leave your question in a comment below the video, and I'll do my best to answer what I can. If you missed any of the earlier parts of this tutorial, just click one of the links in the video or in the description to go back and watch them. Thank you for watching Part 4, and I hope you stick around for Part 5.